No. How's it going, haters? How's it going, haters? It's me, Mr. Poopy Butthole. No, I'm going glass. I'm going glass. No. I'm going Blackbeard. R. Jesus. Oh my god. It's so boring. Jesus Christ. They're killing each other. What the fuck? Oh Jesus. Oh Jesus. Lord save it, get me through too. What? Fucking idiot! Fucking idiot! Don't fucking shoot! Fucking idiot!
Door, you shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have done it.
Alyssa, are you mad about getting an iPhone?
It's a 3.
How mad are you?
Don't talk to me.
Wait, what type of phone is it? Is it at least a 3S or is it just a 3?
Shut up. This is a tiny
Cheeky bastard.
Wait, how old is it?
I don't know.
You realize you're crying over a phone?
Shut up.
Heading over to number 3, we've got a kid who goes crazy over Pokemon cards. At least that's what the title says. Except in the video, for some reason, it looks like he's holding an action figure, so I don't know why the fuck the title's that. I don't know, I'm not gonna argue with it.
So this kid was all over the fucking place. He was just going insane all over the store. I mean, he was banging his feet against the ground. He was laying on the ground. He was like yanking on his mom, trying to get this action figure. He fucking wanted it super bad.
Well, let's think about this also real quick. It looked like his sister had a couple different things that she was getting, like toys and stuff like that. Like at least 2. And, you know, maybe the kid just wanted at least one thing to go home with himself. And I kind of feel him on that, but what he did in the store was definitely unwarranted.
No, just find a way to counter those.
Only thing you don't get is Exodia, which is shit. Why is that even in the deck?
I got 2 God cards in my deck. I got ya. Alright, stand in the way at least. Like, pretend. Boy, you're such a silly man. Wait, where'd he go?
Moving on to number 2, we have a spoiled brat that gets a new car for his birthday, and let's just say it wasn't the car he wanted.
Well, it was actually a truck, and this truck had a bunch of graffiti. It was an old piece of shit, and it just wasn't a good truck, to be honest with you. But I mean, in their driveway, they've got a Hummer and a bunch of nice cars and shit like that as well. So this kid was probably expecting something a little bit better.
You know, a free car is a free car. You can't really complain about it. You know, if I got a 1968 Toyota Corolla with a bumper dragging behind it, I'll be the happiest kid in the fucking world.
Yeah, that comes from you, who says that he wants his first car to be a goddamn Tesla.
Shut the fuck up. I have standards, okay?
Your standards can go fuck themselves, but this kid, he pretty much just went ahead and went with a baseball bat to this truck and just went absolutely insane. And, you know, it may be fake, it may not be. I may know whether it's fake or not, but I'm, of course, not going to tell you because it's up for you to decide.
What do you think it is? I really don't know.
Take a guess.
A car. Oh.
What?
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 A truck? Yes! You surprised! Yeah!
You like it?
No.
Why? This will be something you can beat up and you don't have to worry about scratches or anything, and then you can get a job.
Yeah, but good crap.
It is. It runs really, really good.
But it's safer than a sports car you could buy, though. It's safer than a sports car.
Yeah, but it'll look like a retard driving.
No, you won't.
Oh my god.
Man, that's totally
You guys are making me look like a freaking poor kid in front of all my friends.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Steve.
no. It's off. It's off.
And in the...
Scott, it's not what it looks like.
You were gonna eat him without me, weren't you?
Now the biting makes sense.
Scott's home early.
Number 5 spot, I've got a super spoiled girl, and this one, you know, I'm not exactly sure what her name is. She's a stage queen, so I'm just gonna go ahead and call her Stacy from now on, because Stacy, she gets whatever she wants when she asks for it. Like, she is the definition of what spoiled is.
So you can't really blame Stacy for getting everything she wants in life. You have to blame her fucking parents. Her parents buy her anything she wants.
Well, they're definitely enablers, and they've kind of turned her into this, like, a lady who just thinks that she can have anything that she wants 100%. And, you know, I mean, it's good and all right now, but she's kind of a bitch.
But you know, when the real world hits her and somebody finally says no to her, she's gonna take it as a fucking blow to, like, the stomach. She's gonna absolutely be disgusted because everything in life so quickly got handed to her, and it's just going perfect right now for her. So when the real world hits her, she's gonna be in for a little bit of a surprise.
In upstate New York, Karen Gustafero's home is a shrine to her beautiful, shiny, sparkly, and popular 15-year-old daughter, the princess of pageantry.
Welcome to the stage, Alicia.
If I had one wish for the world peace, that might sound a little corny, but it is the truth. Alicia just has sparkle. I do feel sorry for people that are not gorgeous people. My life is probably the one of the most busy life you ever come across in your life. I'm constantly on the run, but I love it.
Alicia likes to be waited on hand and foot. In the morning, I make Alicia's breakfast.
Oh, you don't like it? Oh, I'm sorry. That was not your best cereal.
We never say no to Alicia.
I think that's school early. Don't be late. I hate when you're late.
Alicia once, Alicia again.
What did you buy me today, Mama?
We keep a Christmas tree year-round because every day is Christmas for our daughter. Oh, that's so cute. Because she's just such a pleasurable child and deserves it. Give her everything she wants. Don't give her any rules. Why upset her?
I am choreless. I feel it is physical labor, and it would suck if I had to do them. So is it almost done?
Yeah, just about. I do projects. Because she doesn't have time with a busy schedule. This is a project that I made for Alicia, and she got 100 plus on this. Good work.
In school, my nickname is Blondie. I don't know where it comes from. Just joking, my hair.
Those are the clips that I have for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, make sure to leave a like in the video. If we can break 10,000 likes, that would be insanely awesome. I really appreciate you guys. And also, make sure to comment down below and tell me if you've ever seen a spoiled crazy. I'd like to hear about that. And of course, make sure to go ahead and check out my buddy Dangflo. I'll leave a link to his channel down in the description, and also like an annotation to one of his videos in the outro screen. It was another kid's video of his that he posted. It was like they broke like their Xboxes or something like that. I don't know, his videos are kind of shit.
Oh wow, so this is the one that uploads daily and basically
Well, you said that
slacks
you
on
have
his
standards,
quality
and
of
I went and looked at
content.
your channel the other day, and I...
Sim, eu sei que não é nada demais, tá? Vocês estão a ver isto? Perfume? Sim, está bem. E? Vocês estão a ver isto? São talheres e pratos. Sim, está bem. E o que é que isso interessa? Publicidade.
Esta noite contamos com o alto patrocínio da Banggood.
Sim, pessoal, eu estou a ser retardado. Desculpem, não liguem. Mas antes de começar este vídeo, eu gostaria de vos dizer, para aqueles que ainda não sabem, que existe uma loja que vende as coisas a preços minúsculos. Seja coisas eletrónicas, coisas para casa, coisas para brincar, coisas para jogar, coisas para qualquer coisa. Vocês podem encontrar perfumes, podem encontrar câmaras como esta. E uma coisa nova que eles vendem muito barato são óculos como este. Mas quando eu digo barato, é tipo barato de 2 euros. Esse barato. Então pessoal, se vocês não conhecem a loja da Banggood, passem no link que está na descrição, entrem lá. Mesmo que não comprem nada, vão lá ver o que há. Pode ser que vocês digam aos vossos pais, ó pai, podes-me comprar uns óculos como estes para talvez o meu próximo aniversário? Ou então para o Natal, que já está quase a chegar? Ou então compram logo. Mas cliquem no link que está na descrição para irem para o site da Banggood. Vale bué a pena e eu compro bué coisas lá, então já. Mas pronto pessoal, mudando de tema e entrando finalmente no tema daquilo que é este vídeo. Sim pessoal, eu já sei o que é o título, até porque eu estou a gravar esta intro depois daquilo que aconteceu. Basicamente o meu amigo lembrou-se de me trollar novamente. O Ant lembrou-se de me voltar a fazer mais uma trollagem. Só que desta vez ele voltou a pegar ainda mais pesado. Como vocês puderam ver no título, ele colou-me na sanita, ou privada, como quiserem chamar. E vocês vão ver a trollagem toda e aquilo que aconteceu. Mas antes eu vou pedir-vos a vossa ajuda. E eu espero que vocês me ajudem de verdade, pessoal. Vamos bater uma meta de 150 mil likes neste vídeo, que é para o vídeo chegar a toda a gente. Eu sei que nós conseguimos, então por favor, deixem o vosso like, por favor mesmo. Vamos lá bater essa meta. E agora sim, vamos ver o que é que o Ant me fez. Em 3, 2, 1... Como é que é, pessoal? Estou aqui na câmara do Cásio. Sim, a minha ideia aqui é colar o Cásio à sanita. Fui comprar cola, eu nem sei se isto vai colar sequer. Disse strong and safe, por isso eu acho que vai deixar. Um amigo deixou outro ir cagar à casa de banho dele, acho eu, né? Acho. Eu agora vou lá, vou dizer, Cásio, não sei o quê, estou uma arrasca, a casa de banho lá embaixo está ocupada, posso usar a tua? E depois a partir daí é que a magia começa. Vamos lá. Ô Cásio, posso? Posso usar a tua casa de banho, mano? A de lá de baixo está... Casa de banho? Sim, a casa de banho está ocupada lá em baixo. Posso usar a tua? Tu me arrasta para cagar. É tranquilo? Obrigado. Uma arrasca, estou... Arrasca? Oh, boy. Obrigado, mano.
Que mole, gente.
assim, boy? Como é que eu saio daqui agora? Como é que eu saio daqui agora, mano? Eu não consigo. Não consigo. Ei, Diogo.
Então, Circa.
A sério? Olha aí. Olha aí.
Como é que é? Estás
Eu vou te
preso?
arrebentar, puto.
Estás preso, Circásio.
Ainda está
Então.
bué. A sério é que estamos só os pelos. Estás a brincar comigo, mano. E pegaste a outra câmara. Em que momento tu pegaste aquela câmara que eu nem vi, pô?
Pois é, caso eu tenho as minhas maneiras,
Mano, eu vou-te rebentar, porque tu não fazes ideia. Eu não consigo. Au, fuck!
Colada mesmo.
Olha aí, mostra perto, então. Já que tá. Olha aí,
Está mesmo colado, puto. Estás preso à sanita. Estás preso à sanita, mano. Estás bem preso à sanita. E agora?
Puta, eu não vou conseguir sair daqui.
Boas, pessoal. Está aqui o Cásio. Está...
Filha da mãe. Vai pro caralho.
Para a próxima não mexas o quarto com bolas, Cásio.
Puto, vai pro caralho. Puto, só te enchi o quarto de bolas, puto. Tu colaste uma sanita, mano.
Pô, é vingança. Tu fazes uma cena, eu faço sempre uma cena pior,
Isso
Cásio.
é uma
Já devias...
vingança.
Isso é uma vingança, já devias saber.
É que puto, que os filhos da mãe.
Já devias saber. Puxa com força, Cásio.
Não vou puxar com força.
Com força.
A cena é que eu tenho as pernas com pelo, puto. Não vou conseguir, puto.
Eu também tenho as minhas com... Anda lá, puto, vai lá.
Não dá, puto. Não dá, puto. A cena é que tu puseste na tampa toda.
E eu? Como é que tu não
A
reparaste,
cena é que
Cásio?
não se sentiu nada, mano.
Não sentiste nada?
Não se sente nada.
A dizer que eu não sabia se a sacola ia resultar e afinal resultou...
Resultou mesmo.
Cásio, usa o papel ali, tens aí papel, Cásio. Usa aí papel para
Vou usar
limpar.
papel, sim.
Usa o papel, Cásio.
Puto, vaza.
É, pois estás com vergonha. Olha, mas está aqui outra câmara, não sei se já reparaste.
Já.
Tá, eu vou embora, Cásio, eu vou embora.
Filha da mãe. Puto, da próxima vez eu vou-te lixar tanto.
Tens a certeza?
Puto, eu vou-te apanhar desprevenido, eu vou-te lixar tanto.
É, tens a certeza?
Tenho.
Está bem então, mano, está bem. Olha, não te esqueças, depois limpa o cu, está-se bem? Vá, tchau, mano, fica bem, porta-te bem.
Vou ter que lhe dar com força. Porque se eu for assim, devagar. Só, eu vou ficar calado. Tá doendo, bué. Eu vou ficar calado e vocês vão tentar ouvir o que é que se ouve. Deu para ouvir, não deu? Eu vou ter que me levantar e que se foda. 3, 2, 1. Não consigo! Estava a ter dor de cabeça. Olha, eu vou arrebentar esse suante, puto. Eu vou dar só um corte para poder limpar o rabo, né? Porque eu vim cagar e fazem isto. Já volto. Ou ontem eu vou-te matar, bois. Pessoal, olhem só como é que ficou a sanita. Olhem só os meus pelos das pernas. Acham isso normal? Eu agora estou todo colado à roupa, meu. Doeu-me bué. What the fuck? Mano, ou ante, tu estás a abusar bué, puto. Tu estás a abusar bué nas trollagens. E eu vou-te fazer alguma um dia, puto, que vai ser tão lixada que vai valer por todas estas que tu mandas a fazer, mano. Tu não esperas pela demora. Tu estás muito lixado, puto. Como é que eu não reparei que ele me roubou a câmara? Se calhar ele não roubou agora quando entrou. Se calhar ele roubou antes e eu não tinha visto. Bom, pessoal, espero então que vocês tenham gostado do vídeo. A guerra de trollagens continua e eu vou fazer uma de volta ao ante. Ele está muito lixado, mano. Primeiro cola-me a cara, depois agora cola-me a sanita. Pelo amor de Deus. Bom, pessoal, espero então que vocês tenham gostado deste vídeo. Se vocês gostaram, não se esqueçam de deixar o vosso like, favoritem, comentem, partilhem o vídeo por todas as vossas redes sociais. Se vocês gostam de trollagens e querem ver mais, partilhem o vídeo e, por favor, deixem o like. Partilhem o canal com todos os vossos amigos para podermos chegar a 5 milhões de inscritos aqui no canal. Mas bom, pessoal, mais uma vez então espero que vocês tenham gostado e até a próxima. Eu agora tenho que pensar em alguma coisa.
Here at Moneybox, we built an app that helps you invest your spare change. Here's how it works. Let's say you buy your morning coffee for £2.40. Using the app, you can round up the amount to the nearest pound and set aside the 60 pence change. Over time, your spare change can really add up. The app user saves about £10 a week, or over £500 a year from roundups alone. You can also set up a weekly deposit, a payday boost, or just add money whenever you feel like it. Moneybox helps these savings work hard you can invest in companies from all around the world, such as Netflix, Unilever, and Disney, via simple tracking funds. We help tens of thousands of people to save and invest towards their future each week. Download the app, sign up in minutes.
Cara, eu fico feliz de ter gostado. Fico mesmo muito feliz mesmo, cara.
Pessoal, só Circásio! O meu cabelo anda exageradamente ondulado ultimamente. Antes de começar este vídeo, eu gostaria de vos dizer tudo é tudo de plástico, tipo esta cobra louca que eu tenho aqui. Isto serve para vocês fazerem algumas trollagens aos vossos amigos. Mano, a cena é que vocês até podem encontrar lanternas de luz negra. Mano, e vendem muitas outras coisas. Eletrónicos, brinquedos, mano, de tudo. Então passem no link que está na descrição, cliquem lá e vejam o que é que vocês gostam. Se quiserem comprar alguma coisa, é muito fácil de comprar, porque vocês podem comprar por cartão, podem comprar por PayPal, podem comprar por todo o lugar. É só porem a vossa morada e tal, não sei o que, e vocês vão poder comprar tudo aquilo que vocês quiserem a preços bué baixos. Então cliquem no link que está na descrição. E agora sim vamos começar com o vídeo de hoje. Não, peraí. Não, este lado. Está na hora de tomar um banho, que há bué de tempo que eu não tomo banho, pessoal. Eu não sei se vocês sabem, mas eu passo tipo mais ou menos um mês que eu não tomo banho, tipo, mais ou menos por aí. Eu tomo tipo um banho cada mês, que é para poupar água. Acho que é uma coisa boa que eu faço. Eu juro que eu cheiro bem. Tá? Não tenham medo de mim depois quando me virem na rua. Não pensem que eu cheiro mal. Eu cheiro bem. Eu passo perfume. Mas mesmo assim vou ter que fazer esta partezinha de vídeo só para aqueles que mesmo assim vão achar que eu não estou a brincar. Eu estou a brincar, tá, pessoal? Eu tomo banho todos os dias. Tá bom? Tá bom. Pessoal, a impressão minha, eu já estou a ficar bem mais magro. Digam lá, eu acho que eu estou a ficar bem mais magro, né? Ainda estou gordo, mas já estou a ficar bem mais magro. Já não tenho tanta barriga. Acho que está a ter uma progressão, uma evolução. Vai ficar bem magro. Vamos ver o jeito que vai. Porra, a roupa está bem quente. E o pé, poxa. Porra, isto está bem calado. Peraí. Não pode ser, pessoal. Isto tem que ter música. Vou pôr aqui música, tá bom? Vamos ouvir um funkão. Salá.
Give me your belt.
Flash kids.
Tonight on UFC 205, two tiny men brain damage each other half to death for the championship belt. Defending lightweight champ Eddie the ethnically ambiguous Alvarez versus challenging featherweight champ Conor Tight Nipples McGregor. Let's watch.
Give me your belt.
No! No, it's mine!
Give me your belt.
No, it's my belt!
Give it to me. Quick, left.
Great job on winning that second belt, Conor. How does this all feel to you?
It's not enough, Joe Rogan. Give me your belt.
What?
Give me your belt.
What are you doing, Conor? Conor, stop it. Conor, stop it. Stop it. No, Conor, no means no.
Fuck you. Give me it. Quick, left.
Oh, hey, it's Conor McGregor.
Give me your belt. Counter punch. Quick left. Counter punch. Stick punch. Give me your belt.
What? No! Fuck off!
Fuck you, Arad. Give me your belt. High kick.
Ow! Fuck! All right, just take it. Ah! Jesus.
Conor, it is I, the galactic leprechaun with tiny nipples. I have traveled many galaxies to find you, and now I have. I'm your daddy, Conor. Search your nipples. You know it to be true.
Give me your belt.
You're damn right I'm gonna give you my belt. You've been a naughty, naughty boy. I'ma beat you like I beat your poor mother.
Give me your belt.
Pretenders, fakers, and floppers exist in every sport. Athletes will do anything they can to win, even if that means sometimes looking like a jackass.
Clearly a flop there. No contact made.
This is a list of fighters who faked being hurt during a fight, either to win via disqualification or to have a point deducted. These are some of the biggest fakers and floppers in MMA. In 2014, Ozzy Thomas took on Mario Said at Cage Warriors 72. Said, who was 6-2 at the time, was declared the winner via disqualification after his opponent landed an illegal kick.
Said is out.
When a fighter has a knee or hand touching the ground, it's illegal to kick them in the head. Said, knowing he was fouled, milked it for all it was worth.
That was illegal. That was an illegal upkick.
It's an illegal upkick, but he turns and he says to the ref, what about the upkicks? And then pretends to, I don't know if it's a very confusing situation.
Said wasn't sure if he should complain to the ref or pretend to be unconscious, so he did both. While Ozzy Thomas's kick was illegal, it's clear that Said wasn't injured and took full advantage of the situation. Referee Mark Goddard disqualified Thomas, declaring Said the winner. While the end of the fight was anticlimactic, Said's last fight more than made up for it.
Oh, that body shot hurt him, the left hand. That was quick from Dan Mulcahy.
Thought Mario Said was good at pretending to be hurt? Wait until you see Josh Koscheck.
And the Oscar goes to?
Josh Koscheck was a contestant on the first season of The Ultimate Fighter and fought Paul Daly at UFC 113. The most exciting part of the fight was watching Koscheck pretend to be hurt after a missed knee in the first round. Daly threw a knee that, if it landed, would have been illegal. Only it didn't land.
Oh, wait a minute. He didn't even hit him.
Koscheck successfully had a point deducted from his opponent and won the fight via decision. Daly, being frustrated, landed his best punch after the fight. Koscheck has a history of this type of behavior and did the same thing to Anthony Johnson at UFC 106.
No. That knee did not hit that left eye.
Whether it was a fix, a dive, or a flop, we do know one thing. This punch couldn't have hurt this much. In 2010, Eddie Bengtson fought Alexander Emelianenko in Russia, but just 40 seconds into the first round, Bengtson already seemed to be looking for a way out of the fight. A light jab from Emelianenko, which didn't even seem to land, sent the 263-pound fighter to the mat. Bengtson looked as if he had lost consciousness, but awoke immediately after the fight was called off and stood up without a scratch on him. Emelianenko was declared the winner via TKO, and Bengtson either faked it or was the first MMA fighter to get knocked out by a gust of air. Pedro "The Rock" Nobre proved that nicknames in MMA aren't always accurate. The Rock took on Yuri Alcantara at UFC on FX in 2013. Early in the first round, Nobre was on the verge of losing his UFC debut after being on the receiving end of Alcantara's ground and pound. During the flurry of punches, one of Alcantara's punches may have grazed the back of Nobre's head. Being that strikes on the back of the head are illegal, Nobre milked the situation as much as he could.
I did not see one hit the back of the head. Not only that, these aren't hard shots, so I'm not sure what Nobre's complaining about.
Even UFC President Dana White, who's usually very supportive of fighters, thought Nobre was faking it.
I don't give a shit what anybody says. The guy was faking it.
As bad as Nobre's acting was, he managed to convince the referee, and the fight was declared a no contest. Immediately after the fight, Nobre was released from the UFC, and Alcantara was given a win bonus.
I was strong as I could be.
And a few honorable mentions. In a fight against Roger Huerta, it looked as if John Halverson faked being hit in the head with an illegal knee.
I throw the knee right here, but if you see, it's all shoulder. So if he wants to pretend like he's playing possum, then, I mean, that's not my fault.
Almost every Bob Sapp fight, Hollis Gracie did his best Ric Flair flop. He wasn't faking it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe. During an MMA fight, you're supposed to knock your opponent out. But some fighters forget this rule and knock themselves out instead.
He lands on his own head, knocks himself unconscious. This is crazy.
This is a list of fighters who are KO'd by their own fault and the floor. These are self-inflicted knockouts in MMA. At Judo 58 in Brazil, Glaucio Salvamar nearly knocked himself out while attempting a flying armbar.
Here it is. Yeah, he just landed straight on his head. Knocked himself out.
Salvamar did well throughout most of the fight, scoring a takedown, but lost position while attempting an armbar at the end of the first round.
Right here towards the end of the first round, misses that armbar.
Salvamar, not happy with the failed armbar, tried again in the second round, this time from the standing position.
Just misses the flying armbar.
He almost knocked himself out with that armbar.
I think he did knock himself out, or he at least rang his own bell.
Salvamar accidentally landed on his head, briefly stunning himself, and was quickly finished off by his opponent.
Would have been a highlight reel if he hit it. Unfortunately, now he's going to be in Enjo's highlight reel for that TKO.
After being away from MMA for 3 years, Mark Kerr returned at Pride 27 to fight journeyman Yoshihisa Yamamoto. The fight was supposed to be Kerr's big comeback, but 40 seconds into the first round, the fight came to a halt.
Into the close guard of Yamamoto.
He's strong, but oh, this is not my good thing. Oh my God, what happened?
Kerr landed on his head while taking his opponent down, giving Yamamoto the TKO win, and ended up being Kerr's last fight in Pride Fighting Championship.
A freaky incident here, and Mark Kerr knocks himself out with a double leg takedown on Yamamoto.
The win was the highlight of Yamamoto's career, who went on to lose his next 9 fights in a row before retiring in 2012.
Wow. Memorable, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yep. Ultimate Fighter competitors Rob Emerson and Gray Maynard fought each other in 2007 at the Ultimate Fighter finale. Maynard won the first round, but 39 seconds into round 2, Maynard attempted a takedown.
You could hear that one in a big he got hitters all over.
After the slam, Emerson tapped out due to a rib injury, and Maynard was KO'd. So the fight was declared a no contest.
Neither fighter could continue, therefore declaring this fight no contest.
Let's look at that again. Gray gets a hold of him, lifts him up, bang, and dumps him, and lands on his own head, knocks himself unconscious. This is crazy.
Matt Lindland won a silver medal in wrestling at the 2000 Summer Olympics and attempted to use his superior wrestling skills against Falanico Vitali at UFC 43.
Lindland went to throw Vitali, but when the fighters crashed to the mat, Lindland's head hit the mat hard, knocking him out.
Less than 2 minutes into the first round, Lindland accidentally hit his head during a takedown, knocking himself out.
The only recollection I have of that fight is what I seen on the video.
The two rematched at UFC 45, with Lindland winning via TKO. And a few honorable mentions. This guy didn't knock himself out during the fight, but almost did shortly after. Dada 5000 knocked himself out after falling face first to the floor due to exhaustion.
Dada has no idea where he is, and that's the ground.
This guy was knocked out after someone left a banana peel in the ring. Thanks for watching. Be sure to... MMA is a grueling sport where one of the most valued attributes is durability. This is a list of 10 fighters who are known to lack the ability to take punishment and lose by knockout more often than not. These are the top 10 weakest chins in MMA. Number 10, Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell retired in 2010 after 3 consecutive KO losses. His chin just couldn't hold up to the punishment of MMA any longer. Chuck Liddell is down! Chuck used to have a granite chin and was tough as nails, but age got the better of him, and eventually the granite turned to glass. Number 9, Brendan Schaub. Brendan Schaub made it to the finals of The Ultimate Fighter Season 10, where he was knocked out by Big Country Roy Nelson. Schaub was also knocked out by jiu-jitsu practitioner Antonio Nogueira and Ben Rothwell, among others.
And he's hurt there, and oh yeah, he's out. And Brendan is fighting the Invisible Man.
Friends and fans were worried about Schaub's health so much that UFC commentator Joe Rogan had a brutally honest talk with him on his podcast.
The reality of your skill set and where you at now, I don't see you beating these guys. This is hard for me to say, because I love you as a friend. There's a bridge between you and the very best guys in the world. I worry about your commitment to fighting. I think you have one foot out the door. There's a lot of things that concern me. There's shit that other people can do that you can't do. This sucks for you. It's hard to hear.
That's
you know?
gonna be the worst job I've ever done.
Number 8, Frank Mir. Former heavyweight champion Frank Mir has been knocked out 7 times in his MMA career. He was on a 4-fight win streak after winning the title at UFC 48, but after a motorcycle accident in 2004, he was never the same. Mir went on to lose via knockout by Brendan Vera, Brock Lesnar, and many more. Number 7, Andrei Arlovsky. Andrei Arlovsky used to be the scariest fighter in the UFC's heavyweight division up until UFC 59, where he was TKO'd by Tim Sylvia. The punch didn't have a lot of power behind it, but Andrei took it on the chin and wasn't able to recover. Arlovsky soon developed a knack for getting knocked out in spectacular fashion.
That's it! Wow!
Number 6, Gray Maynard. Gray Maynard has lost 5 of his last 6 fights. 4 of those losses were by knockout. After getting finished by Frankie Edgar at UFC 136, Gray's chin has become suspect, getting knocked out by TJ Grant, Nate Diaz, Ross Pearson, and even himself.
Gray gets a hold of him, lifts him up, bang, and dumps him, and lands on his own head, knocks himself unconscious.
Number 5, Alistair Overeem. Alistair Overeem is the glass cannon of MMA. He's 260 pounds of muscle and can knock almost anyone out if he connects. But if you touch his chin even slightly, victory is almost certain. He said his opponent Bigfoot was nothing more than a walking target, only to be KO'd in the 3rd round.
He's one big, huge walking target. And I'm pretty good at striking, so 1 + 1 is 2.
Overeem has an impressive list of KO losses to Chuck Liddell, Shogun, Nogueira, and many more. Number 4, Keith Jardine. The Dean of Mean, Keith Jardine, was coming off an impressive upset win over Ultimate Fighter winner Forrest Griffin when he was matched against a complete unknown in Houston Alexander at UFC 71. Jardine was expected to beat Houston with ease, but the assassin had other plans. Jardine also went on to revive Wanderlei Silva's career after getting KO'd in the 1st round by the Axe Murderer. Jardine went on to be TKO'd 3 times after the Silva fight and retired in 2012. Number 3, Marvin Eastman. At UFC 50, it looked as if Marvin Eastman was knocked out by a gust of wind from a missed punch. His opponent, Travis Lutter, was known primarily for his ground game and has never finished someone via KO before.
Travis, you are a great jiu-jitsu guy. What are you doing knocking out a kickboxer?
Eastman went on to lose via TKO by Rampage Jackson, Drew McFedries, and Vitor Belfort, where he received one of the worst cuts in MMA history.
Look at that cut. That is just nasty.
That is the nastiest cut I have ever seen in a fight.
Number 2, Jonathan Goulet. Jonathan Goulet's biggest claim to fame is being on the receiving end of one of the fastest knockouts in UFC history.
Down he goes! Hand! That is it!
Goulet has been KO'd 9 times in his 35-fight career and was knocked out in his very first MMA fight, as well as his last fight, where he retired in 2010.
And kick right off the start. That's probably what's... Nice one-hand punch. Knocks him out. He is out.
Number 1, James Thompson. James the Colossus Thompson proves that just because you look tough doesn't always mean you are. One of the best examples is his fight against Alexander Emelianenko at Pride 28. Thompson riled up the crowd with his intimidating demeanor, but was KO'd only 11 seconds into the fight.
And here we go. And Thompson right away pulls into Emelianenko like a house on fire. And this is a slugfest. I told you. And Thompson is rocked by Emelianenko. And rocked big time. And it's over.
Thompson has been KO'd 13 times in his MMA career.
Right about there. Oh, it was just a clip across the nose, wasn't it? Or it didn't land clean.
Losing his last fight to 46-year-old Tsuyoshi Kosaka. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe.
right? What did I do wrong? It's the formation. I'll go with the scissor formation and rock, paper, scissors their butt. Cross my fingers it worked. Yay, we won!
Once feared for his huge size and ability to overpower his opponents, Bob Sapp is now one of the biggest jokes in MMA. He has lost his last 12 fights in a row, mostly by tapping out to strikes. He has been criticized for throwing fights and clearly has mental issues.
If we're going to have a normal conversation, I'm happy to have it, but I'm not here to have a silly one where you're making voices.
Oh my goodness, what's going on? If you never liked him, you never put him on the show, that's what you're saying, and what you're saying it on the show. What? I'm confused. No, I'm not, but I'm sure of it. Yes, I am. Yes, I'm sure.
Now I get it, and I hope, Bob, that you get the help. You're insane, Bob. Bob, you've lost your mind.
Number 9. Sean Salmon.
Wow, no style points on that one, Sean.
Sean Salmon was 9-1 when he first came to the UFC. His first fight was against Ultimate Fighter winner Rashad Evans. Sean held his own and was arguably winning the fight until Rashad connected with one of the most brutal head kicks ever seen in MMA. Sean went on a decline after the loss and has lost his last 12 fights in a row. Number 8. Ross Poynton. During the Ultimate Fighter Season 3, Ross Poynton showed an incredible lack of skill, but also showed the will to fight anyone at any time. He lost to Kendall Grove by submission, but after Matt Hamill was injured, Poynton stepped up and fought Michael Bisping.
So what do you think? If you had the opportunity to fight again right now,
definitely, man.
What if it was at 205 pounds?
Yeah, definitely. Let's get it on, man.
Poynton was TKO'd early in the fight. He was still offered a fight on the Ultimate Fighter finale where he was choked out by Rory Singer. Ross currently has 6 wins and 17 losses. Number 7, Elvis Sinosic. There are some fighters whose only purpose is to make other fighters look good. Elvis Sinosic is one of those fighters. Elvis won his first UFC fight against submission specialist Jeremy Horn, which most people wrote off as a fluke.
Elvis Sinosic, victorious in his UFC debut.
Elvis went on to take epic beatings from Tito Ortiz, Alessio Sakara, Michael Bisping, and many more.
He's down. That's it.
He retired in 2007 with a record of 7 wins and 11 losses. Number 6, Wayne Weems. With 12 wins and only 2 losses, Wayne Weems doesn't seem likely to be a candidate for this list. Until you watch him on The Ultimate Fighter Season 5.
Yeah, Wayne, I don't think he has too much skills. His stand-up game is not there. His ground game is not there. His endurance is not there.
Weems was demolished by Gray Maynard in just 2 minutes. The surprising lack of skill called his 12-2 record into question, as most of his opponents have never fought before. Number 5, Kimbo Slice. With 0 ground game, it's shocking Kimbo Slice has any MMA victories at all. Most of his early wins are suspected to be fixed fights, but that didn't stop the UFC from signing him to be on The Ultimate Fighter. Kimbo was easily beaten by French fry expert Roy Nelson via TKO. Kimbo also fought on The Ultimate Fighter Season 10 finale in a horrible showing against Houston Alexander. Kimbo gassed early and did almost nothing the entire fight.
This is just getting weird now. This is like over a minute of just spinning around in a circle.
But strangely enough, was still awarded the decision win. Kimbo went on to lose his next fight against Matt Mitrione and was cut from the UFC. Number 4, Giant Silva. At 7 feet 2 inches tall, it's hard to believe how bad Giant Silva is at fighting. But you have to feel bad for him because he doesn't seem to want to fight and always takes a brutal beating.
And it is over, just like that.
Silva lost 6 of his 7 fights in Pride and retired in 2006 with the win over Akebono. Number 3, Jason Thacker. While training out of an abandoned garage in Canada, Jason Thacker received a call from the UFC with an offer to be on the very first season of The Ultimate Fighter.
You've struggled technically and physically since day one. You've almost become like a mascot for our team.
Thacker took on fellow castmate Chris Levin and was quickly TKO'd in the first round. Thacker showed no evidence of a ground game or striking experience and hasn't fought since the loss in 2005. Number 2, Sean Gannon. Sean Gannon's claim to fame was a win over Kimbo Slice during a street fight around 2003. The UFC noticed his terrible striking and cardio and decided to sign him to fight against Brandon Lee Hinkle at UFC 55. Gannon was quickly taken to the ground and was on the receiving end of Hinkle's ground and pound. The fight was stopped in the first round and Gannon was never heard from again. Number 1, James Toney. James Toney was a former boxing champion with no MMA experience at all. So the UFC quickly signed him to a contract when Toney showed interest in competing in MMA.
I said, once he put his money where his mouth is, who's better, MMA or boxing?
Tony was matched against former UFC champion Randy Couture in what would barely be considered a fight. Tony was taken to the ground and he realized that he made a terrible mistake entering MMA. Tony was submitted early in the first round with an arm triangle and retired from the MMA.
I mean, this is what I kind of thought would happen, but I hoped it would be more competitive.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to...
This is the top 10 greatest MMA fighters according to Top Fights. Who's the best fighter in the history of MMA? It's a fiercely debated topic, almost as old as the sport itself. But today, Top Fights is going to weigh in with our picks for the top 10 MMA fighters of all time. Number 10, Conor McGregor. Now, we know some of you don't think that Conor should be in the top 10 at all, while others think we should be ending the list with him at number 1 instead of starting out with him at number 10. So, let us explain. Conor has excellent boxing and stand-up skills and might be one of the best pure strikers in the sport. He's an amazing promoter, and he's held championship belts in 2 UFC weight classes. Pair that with some of the big names he's defeated, and well, you just gotta respect what he's done so far. Okay, so why number 10? Well, he's never defended those championship belts for one, and it's also pretty apparent that he's got some weaknesses to exploit in his clinch and ground game. Only time will tell if he can move further up the all-time list. That is, if he ever comes back at all. Number 9, Chuck Liddell. Chuck is one of the strongest punchers in the history of the UFC, and he's got some great kicks to go with it. He earned the nickname Iceman in the octagon with a highlight reel worth of jaw-dropping knockouts throughout his career and championship reign. Chuck was a dominating fighter in the octagon from roughly 1998 until 2006. This pretty impressive high-level run started to fade in 2007, however, and ultimately led to his retirement after a loss to Rich Franklin in 2010, proving that nobody, not even the Iceman, can stay on top forever. Number 8, Dan Henderson. Now, here's a guy who started fighting on June 15, 1997, and was still fighting at a high level up until 2016. During the Pride days, Hendo was one of the promotion's main draws, and in his final Pride fight, knocked Vanderlei Silva out cold to win the middleweight title. This was in addition to the welterweight title that he already owned. His fight card is a virtual who's who of MMA fighting legends, and who can forget about that knockout against Michael Bisping? By the way, he also defeated Fedor Emelianenko, which is nothing to scoff at. Number 7, Randy Couture. One of the most amazing things about The Natural is that he started his professional fighting career at age 33, an age where many fighters find themselves on the downside of their respective careers. Randy has held belts in 2 UFC weight classes and will always be known as the fighter who just won't give up. Although he never amassed as impressive a win streak as some others on this list, he has a very impressive list of names under his win column, including Vitor Belfort, Kevin Randleman, Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, and Tim Sylvia. Randy stood tall in tough fights against Brock Lesnar and Lyoto Machida as well, in what would be his final fight. Time after time, The Natural proved that you never underestimate the old guy. Number 6, Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes started things off with a submission slam win on January 1st, 1998, and quietly amassed an incredible 45-9 overall record, that ended in 2011 with a loss to Josh Koscheck. Matt was the quintessential wrestler and taught a whole generation of fighters what it meant to have no takedown defense in MMA. During his prime, he defeated the likes of Sean Shirt, Carlos Newton, Frank Trigg, Hoist Gracie, and even Canadian superstar George St. Pierre. Some would say that Matt's MMA accomplishments are underrated, as he influenced the sport so heavily in terms of the legitimacy of wrestling as a fighting discipline. Number 5, Demetrius Johnson. Mighty Mouse is arguably regarded as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters on earth and one of the most technically skilled fighters in MMA. He became the UFC's first and only flyweight champion in 2012, and he's defended that title 9 times so far. Prior to his UFC debut, he was 2-1 in WEC with wins over Damasio Page